happy almost Halloween to everyone, and welcome to voiceover mode. Also, welcome to a video I've been working on for, I think, about 2.5 weeks now, and one that I almost didn't finish. I decided that for Halloween I was going to do something a little special and put a little more effort into a look. So I went to one of the dollar stores near my house and decided to just see what sort of shit they have that I could use. Now, I picked up a couple extra things as well. You might have seen my crow and my floating lady head in the background of my videos. But I got some monster claws, some eyeballs, and a little potion thing. And I decided I could probably make a look with those. Now, everything that I'm doing in this video is just going to be voiced over because I was listening to copyrighted music. So... The first section here, all we're doing is we're preparing the props that I bought in order to film with at the end. I did a little Halloween-y video for you folks. So what I'm doing here with actually preparing this potion vial, I guess it is I'm just painting on a couple of layers of black acrylic. Now, the cheaper acrylic paint you can get, the better, because ultimately what we're going to do is we're going to chip and flake this stuff away. Because that's going to give us a weathered old look if I do it right, which I think I did okay. In the moment, I had no actual idea what I was doing, but I just wanted to make it look a bit more gross than it did. Because that's sort of my goal with everything on this channel is like, take something that looks okay and make it look disgusting. So yeah, here you can see me actually chipping away with a toothpick at the acrylic. So I'm going in with the more detailed bits with the toothpick, and then I'm going to actually use just a kitchen sponge with the scrubby side to do some general patterned wearing down. And it turns out okay. So to prep the eyeballs, I'm just cutting the front part off, which is... There's safer ways to do this. Don't do what I do. And also this, smoothing down the edges. Maybe use a heat gun instead of a lighter, because as you can see, I actually light the fucking plastic on fire at the end there. I also used acetone to remove some of the eye color. Probably unnecessary and also possibly carcinogenic. So maybe don't do that step. But I felt like it was good of me to show you, so you can learn from my mistakes, at least. And then I'm just going in with more acrylic to paint in a new iris color and even a new sclera color, because pure white isn't exactly what we want. And then using my nicest eyeliner to draw in the pupil, because priorities. And this part took so long that I actually fucked up and left half an hour late for work. I've cut out most of it, but I was going in with tiny lines of color in order to give dimension to the iris, and then painting in teeny tiny veins with red acrylic. And holy jeez, I'm happy with how it turned out, but it took me like 40 minutes. Now, I'm going to seal all of that in with just a cheap clear nail polish, because that's going to give us a nice shine, and for some reason, it doesn't seem to melt the acrylic. So now we're just repainting those monster claws that I picked up, which are actually pretty badass for a dollar store item. I'm just going in with a couple different tones of black, green, and purple in order to make it look a little less cheery. Now, the reason they're so bright green is that they are glow in the dark, but I'm not going to take advantage of that with this look, so... And once I finished these, I did also seal them in with the nail polish, just to give them that nice, shiny look. So now comes the actual founding and sculpting of the look. And what I'm doing is a transformed monster hand. So we're going to be doing the eyeball in the center of the back of my hand, and then some talons on my fingers. All in all, this isn't actually that difficult of a look to pull off. primarily because we're not trying to replicate any sort of actual injury or anything. This is just fantasy. Now, I'm doing the talons on my first knuckle instead of on my fingernails. One, because the talons don't really fit there properly on me because I have teeny tiny hands. And two, because I don't want to ruin my manicure, which you can see from how many different nail arts I have on in this video, how many fucking days I filmed it over. I think I went through 3 different looks in just this one video. It's a lot. Now, for sculpting the eye, I actually used a finer tip on my piping bag than I normally do, because we're not actually going to smooth out everything that we do here. We're going to want to keep a lot of the texture when we're building up this eyelid, which also means you're going to have to take a bit more care with building up the eyelid. And there's some thrilling footage of my hand being directly in front of the camera, because I still haven't quite figured out this whole filming tutorials thing now, have I? But all in all, this is the general shape of the eyelid. I want a pretty open, watchful eye look. Like I said, when we're smoothing this down, we're not actually going to be smoothing it perfectly flush or anything, and you want to keep some of those little ridges and wrinkles from laying down the glue. So just make it a little more uniform, take away any little wispies, and you should be good. And next comes sculpting the finger pieces, which also involves a lot of my hand being in front of the camera, for which I am sorry. But I can try to explain to you what I'm doing, which is I'm building up a fair amount of glue around the base of the finger, and I'm also working one finger at a time so that the first one doesn't set by the time I've laid the glue on the 5th finger. Because what you're going to want to do is create the illusion that you don't have the next 2 joints, which means you are going to have to build it up around the knuckle so that it ends flat rather than tapering off. Now, this is all just going to be really speedy, me doing the exact same thing over and over again. For a little touch of added realism, I soaked my little sculpting tool's narrow end and used it to give a little cuticle manicure to the monster claws, which I think turned out okay. Now, once you've reached this point in the look and sculpting, it's not exactly a functional thing anymore. You can't really use this hand all that much unless you're very, very careful. So I would recommend having all your materials ready and with you. I didn't, but I also don't really plan these things through to the fullest extent of my abilities. And you know, you still can sort of use your hand, you just might lose a claw or 2. But you can embrace that and turn it into the look and do an amputated finger type of thing. Those are fun and moderately easy to do. And now for the thumb, I'm not actually doing the whole surrounding area of it. I'm only going to do the bit that's visible while I'm posing with this, because if I do the underside when I put my hand down to paint the back, it's just gonna smush. Now, here I am experimenting with something I've actually never even done before. I don't have face paints or anything like that. Most of what I do is with eyeshadows and blushes, but I don't really have green, which is the color I wanted. So I'm just trying mixing some of my foundation glue with some acrylic paint. And I actually did think to do a test swatch this time rather than just gunning ahead, and it worked out pretty alright. So I'm just gonna paint that on pretty carefully, Now, I did dry the glue in this look more than I normally do, just because I am using a paintbrush over it and I'm using brushing strokes, which I don't want to have any tracks in it. So I just made sure that it wasn't at all sticky to the touch when I poked it with a finger, which took about 3 or 4 tries to get right. But yeah, I'm just going to lay on a moderately generous, careful coat of this glue. And my camera actually died, so I didn't film it, but I did do a second layer of glue while the battery was charging. So 1 coat, dry the entire thing with a hairdryer, and then a second coat just to make it all a bit more uniform in color, I think is what I'm trying to say. And now I'm doing a step that is basically unnecessary, which I'm just taking some watered down acrylics and painting on some texturing, which I'm pretty sure once it dried you cannot see the acrylic whatsoever. But I felt like doing it, so I did it. And you probably don't have to if you want to turn your hand into some weird reptile monster hand. And because it's me, I can't resist doing at least a little bit of blood in a look. So I'm just doing a tiny bit of blood in the eye around the eyelids, and I did actually do a bit on the nail beds as well, but my memory card got full. So this is where the tutorial part ends, but I did make a little spooky video for you folks in honor of Halloween. So yes, that was my Halloween dollar store look. I hope you guys enjoyed it. It took me a long time to film, but honestly, I'm pretty proud of the end result. I think it's the most dramatic transformation I've done for a, just like a hand look. I'm also really proud of that eyeball. Like, I really like that eyeball, guys. So yeah, if you liked, feel free to drop a like or comment on the video. Subscribe if you want to see more stuff, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.